This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up? Real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, along with the Mark Weber.
Dub them ease.
And we are back for another edition of the Onside Kick right here on Most Valuable Podcast, your one-stop shop for, I guess I used to say, professional football, Mark, because I guess I have to go back to saying NFL.
Technically still professional football. There's only one league.
It's technically still. I'm still going to say professional football, because we're going to have the XFL starting up in about a year or so. So we'll be back to two.
No, they might not even do it.
It's going to start.
They might just say,
be
you know what?
How far does
Never
that
mind.
Get along? But, yeah, it looks like the AAF is done.
The Alliance.
Before I get into everything.
Couldn't even get in the playoffs.
What were your thoughts about the AAF? They're not done. They're suspending their season.
It's not surprising. I don't think anyone, as much as we all like to say it was going to be fun, and we're all like, I don't know, maybe it could be a spring football, minor league football.
No one supported it.
No one actually thought the thing was going to really work.
There were people that supported it. I shouldn't say nobody.
Oh, yeah, there are plenty of people that supported it.
It's
got actual fans. But it's just, I think we've known this from the UFL. There's UF something L. USFL. From Arena Football's essential failure after a while. They actually did pretty decently. AFL, but they got a merger out of it. So, like, that's a little bit better.
Well, the NFL ate them.
And then the Alliance. Like, none of these work. They're not going to work. It's never going to work. There's only so much attention people have to give. And when you're competing with baseball and you're competing with basketball in the spring, you're not going to win that battle. And if you're going to try and do what the USFL did and compete directly with the NFL, you're going to fail miserably. So the XFL's in this weird spot of that didn't work, this didn't work, and we didn't work last time. Let's just try it again. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the XFL. But the AAF, they'll probably last longer than the Alliance did.
The Alliance, I'm expecting when they said suspended, I'm like, you could just come out and say it. They're done.
I mean, it almost failed week 2.
Yeah, did I want to go a full season? Absolutely. But I'm kind of glad I didn't buy a Memphis Express shirt because I feel like I'd feel like an idiot wearing.
It would be a nice piece of nostalgia.
Yeah, a nice piece of...
For those great like 7 weeks.
Be like that Supersonic shirt that you still have. Like, remember when this was a team? But we got a jam-packed show for you. Going to continue our draft talk as we get ready for the NFL draft. We are now 24 days away. Yesterday with Brandon, we had the countdown at 25 days. We are now 24 days away from the NFL draft. Going to be looking at possible trades that we could see in the first round. We're going to then look at Kyler Murray, kind of look at the best fits for the young quarterback.
That'll be a first.
And then we're going to end the podcast talking Bears draft. And the reason we can finally talk Bears draft is because they traded Jordan Howard.
We can talk about the Bears draft anytime.
What is that going to mean for the Bears and their draft strategy now that they have traded Jordan Howard away? And running back could be something that they look into. Before we get started, though, make sure to check out patreon.com/Most Valuable Podcast. It is how you help support us and make sure that we can keep doing what we're doing for you guys each and every day and each and every week. But, Mark, let's start talking about some trades. And, damn, if you're on YouTube, you're like, Ricky, what are you reaching for? Have you ever had a scratch on your back, Mark, to where you're like, man, it just won't go away? Just won't go away no matter how hard you scratch.
Conversation.
It's kind of like
it just doesn't go away.
It just doesn't stop. But yeah, that's what I'm feeling with my back right now. That's why I look like, Ricky, why do you look so weird? Because I got a scratch on my back. But Mark, let's talk some trades. The first one, I just want to throw this one at you.
Right.
Usually I'd be like, well, what's a trade that you could see? I want to throw this at you because Brandon and I talked about it yesterday on the PTP, and I want to ask your thoughts.
All right.
So the Raiders worked out Dwayne Haskins and Kyler Murray. And now there's no guarantee that the Raiders are going to go quarterback with the 4th overall pick. My hypothetical is if the Cardinals draft Nick Bosa #1 and don't take Kyler Murray, do the Raiders make a trade with either the Niners or the Jets to move up and grab Kyler Murray before anyone else.
Or Dwayne Haskins.
Or Dwayne Haskins.
They worked them out. They worked both of them out. I want to give Dwayne Haskins his day. A little different than, they could have gone for Drew Lock, work him out. Well, good old Brett Favre arm he's got.
They coached Drew Lock at the Senior Bowl, so that's why they didn't have to work him out.
They already know who they're going to take. Yeah. It's all smoke screen just to get Drew Lock at number 4 overall. Could it happen? Oh, it totally could happen. It's interesting to me because it's one of those times where they're gonna have it in their minds of which one of these quarterbacks they like. Maybe they like them both, but they're gonna have one of these guys they want. And the question becomes, do you trade up to first and get your guy? Or do you say, let's see what Arizona does, and then we'll trade up to second and then get our guy?
I'm going to just say this because the reason why is I'm looking at the NFL.com article I pulled up. Yeah. And we joke about it, but the guy says one of the trades is Raiders trading up from 4 to 2 with the Niners. And the first sentence is, it's easy for me to see Raiders head coach John Gruden wanting to lock up Drew, the former Missouri quarterback he coached at the Senior Bowl. And we just joked.
Well, it's the Brett Favre connection.
We just joked about it. I read that line and I go, if the Raiders trade up to take Drew Lock and not Kyler Murray and not Dwayne Haskins, it will remind me, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, I'm just saying it reminds me of when the Bears traded up to get Mitch Trubisky. Because many people, I was one of them, was like, really? You traded up? You would have been able to get him where you were drafting. Where many people would then assume, if let's say they traded up to 2 to get Drew Lock, many people would be like, you were worried he wasn't going to get the 4?
The difference in that being, because it doesn't remind me of that at all, that supposedly other teams were also interested, and in this one you're drafting the 4th best quarterback at number 1. I actually think it'd be more... Now, we were proven that Baker Mayfield deserved number 1 overall, at least in this season. But it would have been, more similar to...
Baker and Mitch were different drafts.
Well, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that it would be more, to me, of everyone expected Sam Darnold to be number 1.
Oh, okay.
Sam Darnold was going to be a number 1 guy. Then maybe Josh Allen because of that arm. And, the Browns can get Baker at 4. They don't need to take him at 1. And they just go and they get Baker. And there's people out there saying... But he's like the 4th best quarterback, 3rd best quarterback. The difference being that there was actually an argument that Baker is the number 1 quarterback in that draft, and it looked like he might just be. This one is I don't think there's a single... That's not true. There are people who think that Drew Lock is the number 1 quarterback in this draft. But let me exaggerate for a second. There's not a single person out in the entire world that thinks Drew Lock is the number 1 quarterback in this draft. But that would be a genius or... get this man out of here, where's my angry mob moment for John Gruden, because it either works out really well and it's like, wow, you guys got your guy, or it's you brought Mayock in to do this. I could totally see the Raiders trading up for a quarterback, and I know that they have a quarterback. They've got Derek Carr, they've got a good quarterback, but
what's his future like in...
Do they like him? There's nobody there who's got any real tie to him. Similar to another team that I'll mention later on, there's nobody that has a real concrete tie of we're married here. It's just kind of you inherited this, and if it works, cool, but maybe you're not into it. So they totally could. What I would love to see happen is them do something. In this dream scenario of trades, trade up. And then trade up again with...
the 2 firsts you've got later on from the Bears and the Cowboys.
Or with Derek Carr. Use Derek Carr as one of your... Now, he's not doesn't count as a first, but you can trade him to a team that might need a quarterback.
The only reason I wouldn't do that is because if I'm drafting... Let's say the Raiders trade up for Drew Lock. I am not trading Derek Carr until after the... They're not going to trade for Drew
Lock.
Well, no. I'm just saying if they do, because...
We can say a better quarterback. Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray, Dwayne Haskins. If they trade for any of them, I'm almost saying don't trade Derek Carr this year. Do the Patrick Mahomes treatment of sit him the first year because you have Derek Carr under contract.
Yeah.
Sit him under Derek Carr, Alex Smith him after the year, and trade him after the year. Between
the Mahomes situation and this situation, Mahomes was what, like number 12? I think he was 12 overall. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that. You're trading up to number 1 or number 2 overall. It's a difficult situation to make him sit. It's not like we're sitting there saying...
But you got Derek... You can easily say, we have Derek Carr, you're not better than him.
But at the same time, you're drafting the guy number 1 overall. They've shown they've got no hesitation to trade away good players for whatever it is they need. Get rid of Derek Carr then.
Yeah.
Set him loose. Let him go somewhere else. Get some picks out of it. Move up in a draft, whatever you need to do. I think it'd be cool to see. Is it going to happen? Should it happen? Both those answers are going to probably be no, but it would be cool.
Who's a team or what's a trade that you think could happen besides the Raiders?
Yeah, there's a trade I want to see happen is I want to see the Bengals trade their way into a quarterback. And the reason why, and I had the Bengals.
Like trading with the Bengals to get like Daniel Jones or Will Greer at 32 or 31.
No, I want the Bengals to get a quarterback.
Yeah, that's what
I want them to trade. Yeah. And I got them.
Hey, we're going to move up into the first round to grab one.
Yeah, because they're not going to get one of these. I somehow managed them in my last mock draft, 5.0, to have them take Kyler Murray at what do they have, 10, 11? 11. I managed them to get it because I am not really that sold on Kyler Murray.
But he's not going to fall that far.
No, like, and reality is he's not. Dwayne Haskins is probably not either. Even if nobody is really doing much trading, the Giants are going to take a quarterback. People want to say the Cardinals are going to take a quarterback. We just said the Raiders could take a quarterback. So there are teams that are out there that might take quarterbacks. But I would love them to be that team that does trade up and grabs a Drew Lock. I would love them to see the guy because Andy Dalton is another one of those situations. Nobody there has any concrete ties to Andy Dalton. They can get rid of him, but they don't need to get rid of him. They can keep him around for a year if they want to do what you were saying, a Mahomes, Alex Smith treatment, to say, we'll let you win the job, but you don't have it right off the bat. They could do something like that. And, it'd be fun to see another one of those situations over in the AFC North, just like Lamar Jackson just did to Joe Flacco.
Yeah, and to me the Bengals are, I don't want to use the word enigma, but kind of like an enigma to me because they get their new coach, so they're no longer got Marvin Lewis, and really it's how does Richards feel about Andy Dalton? Because Andy Dalton's not a bad quarterback, but does he fit what you want to do coming over from I believe he came over for the Rams, if I'm not mistaken. And it's like you've got A.J. Green out there. You've got running backs like Joe Mixon. And Andy Dalton, like I said, is not a bad quarterback. But could they take someone like what I'm kind of thinking is if Will Greer, let's say the top 4 go. So Murray, Haskins, and Locke all go top 10. Daniel Jones goes, let's say, middle of the first. Are they a team that basically, like you mentioned with Baltimore, are they a team that goes, hey, you know what? We do like Will Greer. We're going to trade up with a team like the Patriots or the Rams that are at the bottom of the first round in order to try to get a quarterback and get that 5th-year option on him.
Could be.
Because I think like early on in this draft, we were talking about like, oh, this isn't a strong year for quarterbacks.
It's not.
And
it
now,
still isn't.
And now as we're getting closer to the draft, it might be because these are the quarterbacks that we're looking at.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if we don't see a ton of moving pieces within the top 5. Mainly for me, I think that if the Cardinals go Murray number 1, 49ers aren't keeping their pick, and then the Jets aren't keeping their pick.
I wouldn't be shocked if there wasn't much movement in the top 5 because I still don't think this is that great of a quarterback draft.
And but if one goes, the dominoes fall.
Not necessarily. I mean, not necessarily. If GMs truly do not believe these are quarterbacks worth taking, they won't. I mean, you have
Do you think
a team like the Broncos.
Now?
I think it very realistically could happen. These quarterbacks are not that good. People thought Geno Smith was a top 5 pick, top 10 pick his draft. He went in the 2nd round. E.J. Manuel was the number 1 quarterback in that draft. There's no quarterbacks in that draft really worth talking about. I think we looked at that last podcast.
Yeah.
It's very possible when you look at Josh Allen, Quinnen Williams, Nick Bosa, Montez Sweat, you have all these really, really, really talented defensive players. Greedy Williams in there as well, even though people don't like his tackling. We have all these really, really great players that should all go before the quarterback. It's very realistic to say teams are going to say, you know what, I'm just going to draft the best player there, the best defensive player, to where even the Giants, who desperately need a quarterback, are saying, we're probably at number 6 just going to take the best defensive player. It's very possible that this is something that could happen. I would be shocked if we get Will Greer or Drew Lock or Daniel Jones. Not incredibly shocked. Anything can happen. But I would be surprised if it happened.
See, I'm on the other side. I think 4 quarterbacks are going in this first. And I know this isn't a quarterback topic, but I think 4 quarterbacks are going in this first round. And for me, the interesting one for me, and you could talk trade here, the most interesting pick is that number 1 pick. Because if the Cardinals go number 1 and they say we're going to draft Kyler Murray, I think that's going to push the dominoes over, where Dwayne Haskins and Drew Lock, I feel like there's more interest in them this year than teams had in a Geno Smith, in an E.J. Manuel. Like, you could say, like,
out of desperation. We're back to the Jake Locker year.
Bingo.
Where people just drafted quarterbacks because you have to draft a quarterback, and you end up with Christian Ponder, Jake Locker, and guys who are shit.
And you can say comparing it to that, but the fact is it might happen like that.
Sure, anything
Especially
could
if
happen.
the Cardinals go
I just hope that
one.
I have a little bit of faith in these GMs. I'm hoping they're going to be able to see past that.
Yeah,
that's why you have people trading for guys like Joe Flacco. Or grabbing your Tyrod Taylor to say, maybe I can get one of these guys.
The Broncos are even a team, though, still, where people go, could they still take a quarterback?
Well, sure.
later
Half
on?
the teams on here, people are saying, could they take a quarterback? People say, could the Saints draft a quarterback? Yeah, they could.
Well, Will Greer, he's the guy that I've seen most people go, will the Saints grab Will Greer in the second round? Will they do it? Like, not trading
second
up for
round,
him.
go for it.
For me, the way I see it is, right now, if I am predicting what's going to happen at the draft, I think that 3 of the quarterbacks go in the top 10, Murray, Haskins, and Locke. And I think that there's no way Daniel Jones falls below 17 to the Giants.
I would be shocked if he was still there. If he got taken there. It's just
because I think
he's just
we could
not,
have
we've had the
quarterbacks
conversation
in the top 20.
last week. They're just not that good at quarterbacks. Personally, I think we're going to look back 10 years from now and say, where did all those quarterbacks go in that 2019 draft? I don't see any of them. Maybe there's a backup still. I don't really see any of these quarterbacks working. And it's just because we had really good draft classes the last 2 years in quarterbacks. Next year, we're supposed to look at an amazing draft class. So we got this one that's just weak. It's just going to get forgotten about. And the teams that draft a quarterback this year and do poorly are going to sit there and go, well, I can get Tua. He's there. And they're going to pull a Browns. They're going to pull a Carolina. When Carolina drafted Cam Newton, they replaced a guy they just drafted the year before in Clausen. I really think that this is what this is going to be. But I think, to go back to trades, what I think I could see happening, even if they, the Cardinals say, yeah, we're going to grab Kyler Murray, is all of a sudden people are saying, whoa, Nick Bosa's available. Josh Allen's going to be available. Quinnen Williams is here. That is something I can realistically see easier in my mind of people saying really, really great defensive talent is out there. What was it last year that made the Chicago Bears an amazing team? Getting a pass rusher like Khalil Mack. And they had to trade for him because he was already out there. But when you can get that guy, when you can get yourself a Von Miller, when you can get yourself a J.J. Watt, these players are players that can change a defense essentially on their own. I think that teams should, if they're trading, trade for one of those guys. Get yourself Josh Allen.
And that's an interesting thing that I think about with the 49ers because let's say, regardless of who the Cardinals take, either Murray or Bosa, I feel like the 49ers could sit there and go, if the Raiders really want to trade up for a quarterback, if I'm the 49ers, I would make that deal in a heartbeat. The reason why, how many picks are there in between me then?
Well, it's also you're going to get more picks.
And it's the Jets. Well, A, you're going to get more picks. B, there's a good chance that they can get a guy that they want at 4 because the Jets can only take one player. And at that point, let's say Kyler Murray and Drew Lock then go 1-2 to the Cardinals and Raiders. Then it's like, okay, Jets, what are you going to do? Trade, which if somebody's trading up, most likely they're trading up for a quarterback, but they could trade up for a Nick Bosa who would be available. But even if Nick Bosa goes there, I still have the option of Josh Allen, Quinnen Williams. All these defensive players are there. The question I want to throw out, and I don't think many people are talking about this. It's usually just Nick Bosa, Kyler Murray, who are they going to go with?
Yeah.
Is there an option for the Cardinals to trade that number 1 pick? Because this is from touchdownwire.com. Matthew Stevens put, either way, they, being the Cardinals, have their quarterback of the future in Josh Rosen, or they really do want Kyler Murray like has been rumored. Regardless, they could likely find Murray or another player they really want later in the first round while picking up a king's ransom for the number 1 pick in the 2019 draft. With so many needs remaining on their roster, it makes more sense for them to try and pick up as many selections in the top 100 as possible. I threw this out to Brandon because Brandon is a staunch, take Kyler Murray number 1, Josh Rosen is crap, which I even tried to tell him the thing that Sean sent us of, he was sacked 17 times before he could step back 5
Everyone
5
is
steps.
willing to admit that Arizona Cardinals have a terrible team, but somehow Josh Rosen's terrible.
Yeah, somehow he's the problem.
Yeah.
Should the Cardinals trade the number 1 pick in order to get more selections in the top
should
100?
they? Sure. Their team is bad and they need players. But at the same time, there's not very many opportunities you have to get a guy like Nick Bosa. Or whoever your personal favorite is. If you can get one of those guys, sure, you can get multiple guys who are really good, but if you can get one of those generational type of players, and I'm not saying that Nick Bosa guarantees a generational player, but if you're number 1 overall, if
you think the Chargers,
I wouldn't say
worried?
he's a generational, but he's really good.
Do you think the Chargers are worried about their pass rush? No,
not
right now.
It's just if you truly think that this guy at 1 overall is going to be that thing that takes your team to the next level, you just draft him. You just go and get him. And the same thing can be said of a quarterback. If you really think Kyler Murray, Dwayne Haskins, whoever, is going to be the quarterback who's going to lead you to multiple Super Bowls, you draft him. It's that simple. But yeah, if you can trade back, sure. If you think that those guys are going to be available for you, go for it.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the... If I was the Cardinals, I would be trying to search for a trade partner.
Well, I think you should pretty much, any team should always be looking to trade back, really.
And the reason being is I look at the needs for the Cardinals. Offensive line, you could get a pretty good one in the top 10. Wide receiver, you could get a pretty good one in the top 10.
Any position, you're going to be able to get a good one in the top 10.
Tight end,
or in the top 10.
Apparently you could get a good one in the top 10. I'm still not sold that T.J. Hawkinson is a top 10
But you'll get
pick.
the best player.
Yeah, exactly.
The position.
Defensive line. Look at how many defensive players we got in this draft. And then Greedy Williams at cornerback. Like, every single need is there. Plus, I'm assuming if you're trading the number 1 pick, you're going to get a future first. And you're going to get picks later on
you sure hope
in this
so.
draft. Like, I am looking 1, 2, 3. All of the top 3 picks could be movable when we get to the draft. The big one I look at is the Jets. Because the Jets, to me, they could sit there. Let's say how our mock draft rolled out this past time before we do the new one. Let's say Nick Bosa goes number 1, Quinnen Williams goes number 2. Well, the Jets aren't going to draft a quarterback because they took Sam Darnold. They're not going to do the thing that the Cardinals were thinking about doing. And it's like, yes, they could take Josh Allen with that third overall
be a really
pick,
good player.
But how does that help them? Because they're
by having a really good player.
Because they're a team that has lost some later picks because they traded up with the Colts last year in order to get Sam Darnold. So for me, the Jets are a team where if I get to 3, Josh Allen is good and he'll be a good pass rusher for you.
Be a great pass rusher.
But I could get a pass rusher a little bit later. Maybe one of these quarterback-hungry teams can give me some later picks. that I can supplement for the ones that I lost and gave away to the Colts for last year.
That's going to be how it is for any player, any team. You can get a lot more picks, and that's great if a team wants to trade up. Doesn't matter if they want a quarterback, if they want Josh Allen, doesn't matter who they want. If they're going to trade up, they got to give you a lot of stuff. And that's great, especially if you're a team that has needs. But the Jets made a lot of moves in the offseason. They show they want to win. So to me, for the Jets, no, don't trade. Take a guy like Josh Allen. If it's Quinnen Williams, take whoever's available. Go get one of the best players, the number one player on your board. The odds are 1 or 2 on your board is going to be there. Go grab them. It's that simple. Just go draft him because you have shown us all in the offseason you are ready to win now. You win now by getting the best players on your team.
Are there any other teams that you're thinking could maybe, let's say, out of the top 10 that could be like, hey, I know this team is later, but they could trade up, or hey, this team could trade back in the later picks?
Yeah, I'm interested to see what the Giants do with number 17, just because, and it's not even quarterback related for me. It's just they're a team that's in this weird, we're one step in rebuilding, we're one step in, we're still going to try and win some games. So I'm interested to see, do they try and trade up because they want to get a good player? Do they try and trade back, because they're going to sit there and they're in a spot where someone starts falling and they fall kind of decently, 17 might be a good spot where someone can trade up and get them.
Yeah.
Because the Giants are going to do exactly that, where they're going to need multiple picks. They're going to need multiple things. So I'm very interested to see what the Giants do with 17-6. I think they just sit there.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the whole thing is, and I didn't get this way until I started seeing some of our comments when we talked about Daniel Jones possibly going to the Giants. And there were a lot that were like, hey, you know what? Like, the GM of the Giants does like Daniel Jones. I'm starting to think, and I'm like,
good for him.
I'm like, you know what? Would I do it? No. But I could totally see the Giants being like, hey, we could use some defensive help. We could maybe use some offensive help, get some weapons. Why not use that 6th pick to grab one of these defensive guys that may be falling because people are trading up for quarterbacks, and we'll get that quarterback later with 17, either trading up with it to try to get Jones if they don't think he'll fall to 17, or if he falls to 17, take him there. I don't know exactly where the Giants take their quarterback, but I know they're going to take a quarterback with one.
Maybe they somehow make a trade with the Cardinals.
Get number 1?
Nope. Get Josh Rosen.
Huh.
If the Cardinals do truly,
if they
truly want to grab a quarterback, I don't know if 17 is going to be that spot, but maybe Cardinals work something out, get back into the 1st, get early into the 2nd again, and Giants can get their quarterback that way.
The last team I'm thinking about is the Seahawks. And the reason why is they have 4 picks. They have a 1st, a 3rd, a 4th, and a 5th. They're a team that we've talked year after year where it's like, hey, that LOB is not there anymore. They're completely... It was, hey, it's falling apart. Hey, it's deteriorating. Hey, some of them are not here. And now it's completely
it's
dead.
gone.
Now, Russ, like before we were even recording the podcast, you said you saw something where Russell Wilson is kind of giving
the top headline on ESPN.
A timeline now with, hey,
rumor has it. That's what they're saying. Rumor has it he's giving them a deadline.
You've got till. Did they say when the deadline is?
I didn't read it.
That, hey, you got till here to get me a new deal, or I may be walking. If I'm the Seahawks, sitting there at 21, I may make a trade with a team to try to get some supplementary picks, a 2nd, a 4th, something to where it's like, hey, I can't just leave this draft with 4 total picks. And if you select someone at 21, a 3rd, a 4th, and a 5th might not be enough to generate more picks within the draft.
Possible, unless there's someone you really like at 21. I'm going to sit there and say you need depth. Obviously, you need to have depth. But if there's someone you really like at 21, you really think is going to make your team better, go ahead and draft the guy. I do not believe that there's any way the Seahawks say, all right, see you later, Russell. There's just no way that's going to happen. He is too instrumental to that franchise. Without him, they probably don't have a Super Bowl win. And he didn't truly carry the team the way I think they hoped he would. They wanted him to become Aaron Rodgers, essentially, after Marshawn Lynch was gone.
They'd have 2 Super Bowl wins if they actually used Marshawn Lynch.
Probably. But they did not. And yeah, that was a fun one. But yeah, I think that there's a good chance Seahawks do drop back because it's kind of an obvious thing. But at the same time, other teams know that, and they're going to say, you don't have that great of leverage. I know you desperately need picks, so I'm not going to give you as much.
Yeah, but there might be a team like the Colts that are like, hey, let's move up because we want to grab one of these defensive players that's down here in the later part of the first round. Is there any trades you think we're missing, any teams you think we're missing before we move on?
All I'll say is someone's going to probably surprise us.
You think so?
That's usually what happens.
I mean, usually it's someone.
Last year it was the Saints.
Someone trades up and it's like, holy crap. Well, the Saints and even I'll say the Chiefs surprised us 2 years ago when it was like the year Mitch went. It's like, wait, the Chiefs traded up to get Patrick Mahomes?
All 3 of those quarterback trades were surprising at the time.
What? The Texans traded? The Browns traded to not take a quarterback? Like, what? And I guess it worked because they do. Maybe the Dolphins will do that. They'll try to get some Browns magic where it's like, hey, here's what's going to happen. We're going to trade when we could take a quarterback, and then we're going to hopefully get the number 1 pick next year.
I think the Dolphins are very comfortable with not taking a quarterback right now.
But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below in that comment section. What trades are you looking forward to seeing? What trades do you think we will realistically see? And what teams do you want to see those trades for? Let us know what you're thinking down below.